Hi ladies and gentlemen, welcome to AESL American Idioms with Professor Coleman. Today I'm going to be going over the idioms that I put on my syllabus for fall 2019 so you can have an example of those. So here we go. Here are the syllabus idioms for our AESL 563 class. Ready? Here we go. The first idiom that we have on our syllabus is as easy as ABC. And what that means is to be very easy. Where that comes from is when we teach English to our children, we teach them the ABCs of the language, and we have building blocks, and each block has an A or a B or a C or a D or an E, and we say as easy as ABCs. So we have an example sentence for you. This class is as easy as ABC, and you can use that for anything really. You could say this game is as easy as ABC, or this book is as easy as ABC. It's a great idiom to use. Note that it ends with C. We never say ABCD. It's always as easy as ABC. It also rhymes, which is kind of fun for us. The next idiom that we have on our syllabus is to learn something by heart. And this is another good idiom. What it means is to have something memorized or to learn something so well that it is in fact memorized. And our example sentence for that is, I'm going to study these idioms until I learn them by heart. As all things, when we really know something, we know it so well that we love it, that it's in our heart. And so that's one way to remember this idiom, that we love something so much that we've put it in our heart. We've learned it by heart, and so we have it memorized. The next idiom on our list is to school someone in something. And usually we have both. We have to school someone in something. Now normally school would not be a verb. This is an idiomatic use of the noun school, so we're schooling someone. And as a verb here, we can in fact be schooling someone. So what it means is to train or coach them in some way. This is an idiom that sometimes has a negative connotation, which means we're not teaching them necessarily in a nice way. So when I'm teaching you, like in our class, we're having fun and it's a fun time. When I'm schooling someone, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm being nice about it. So if I use my example sentence here, Jeff really schooled him in that staff meeting, didn't he? Then perhaps Jeff wasn't very nice about training him or coaching them. It's possible that he was training him or coaching them nice, but more than likely he was not being very nice about it. So when we use to school someone, it usually has a negative meaning. So just remember that. It's not something that you want to use necessarily in a nice kind of way. The next idiom that we have on our syllabus list is to crack a book. And that's a kind of interesting idiom because today we don't even necessarily use paper books. In our class we're using a paper book, but we also have a lot of digital media too. So to crack a book means to open a book, to study. Here in our picture we also have a digital book and we have a computer book as well. And so our sample sentence is, you can't expect to learn without cracking a book. But really we don't actually have to open a book. We could open a digital book or computer book, but you would still use the term crack a book. And it doesn't work for computers. It only works for books, so you can't crack a computer. You can only crack a book. Because it's idiomatic, we can't use this as a universal formula to apply to other things. As we'll notice throughout the semester, idiomatic language is specific to certain groups of words, so you can't cross-apply it. So in this case, we're going to crack a book this semester and open our books and learn a lot of new phrases in English. Another great idiom is a school of thought. And a school of thought is a way to think about something. we use schools to talk about, besides obviously the school like IVC or Saddleback, we also use schools within schools. So the humanities could be considered a school, or the English department. So a school of thought is like a way or a department. So our example sentence here is Professor C's school of thought is that learning language can be fun. So a school of thought can also be considered like an idea or a theory or a way of thinking. So you can have a school of thought. This is kind of a specific thinking kind of idiom, so you might not see it very often. It depends on the kinds of books you're reading, but it's still a good idiom to have, a school of thought. Another idiom that we have on our syllabus is call the roll, and this is generally used for classes, and what it means is to take attendance. And here is our example sentence. Professor C calls the roll at 9:30 sharp. The roll is another word for attendance. Then we have another idiom that means something similar. It's a little more fun than call the roll. Call the roll is rather a official, kind of formal way of saying take attendance. A more informal way of saying it is to count noses. And to count noses also means to count the number of people or to take attendance. And here is an example sentence of that. In AESL classes, we have to count noses every day. Both of these idioms mean to take attendance, but to call the roll is a more formal way, a more formal idiom, whereas to count noses is just kind of a fun, slangy kind of way to do it. To count noses also doesn't have to be take attendance. If you're at a party, for example, or you're going out to dinner and you're trying to figure out how many people need to go, you can say we have to count noses. And that's pretty obvious. You're actually counting the heads, so you're counting the noses. So that's kind of a fun way to say that. Another idiom we have is to make the grade, and most of us want to have good grades, and when we say to make the grade, obviously we're not wanting to have bad grades. Very few people wake up and want to have bad grades. So to make the grade means to be at a satisfactory level, and that of course is a good satisfactory, usually an A. Our example sentence for that is to earn scholarships this semester, the students must make the grade. And anytime you're talking about making the grade, we're talking about making a good grade. The next idiom that we have then is to have one's nose in a book, and this is another idiom that we came up with back when we had hard copy books and we were actually opening the book, and so we had our nose actually in the book. And it means to be reading a book or studying a book. Our example sentence for that is Professor C always has her nose in a book, because I do. I read a book a lot. Again, you can't really use this for a computer or anything else. We really only say has her nose in a book. Now we'll see throughout the semester that we put our noses in a lot of places. We have idioms for a lot of body parts, but in this particular syllabus idiom list, our noses are just being counted, and then we have them in a book. The next idiom that we're going to be looking at is to pass with flying colors. And this means to be passing with a very high grade. Flying colors means a high grade. Flying colors wouldn't really be a B grade. It really needs to be an A or even an A+. So our example sentence with that is G-Man passed his Spanish class with flying colors this summer, because G-Man took Spanish 1 and he did fantastic. I believe he got something like a 98%, which was clearly flying colors. So this is always a really, really high score. So rather than saying I got a high grade, you can say I passed with flying colors. The next idiom that we have on our list is to put on a thinking cap. Now, a thinking cap is not to be confused with a dunce cap, so be really careful with that. A thinking cap is a good thing, and it means to start thinking seriously, because I guess it helps us think seriously. So our example sentence with that is, even when we are having fun, we still have to put on our thinking caps to learn idioms. And that's because learning idioms is kind of difficult. difficult. The language doesn't always translate, so we have to think with our little thinking caps on our heads that helps our brain think to learn our idioms. Moving on to our next idiom, we have to be a copycat. Now, cats are great, and I love cats, but copycat in school is not a good thing. In school, to be a copycat means to copy someone else, and we don't want to do that because being a copycat is not a good thing. Being a copycat in school means we are being a cheater. So this is a negative idiom when we are applying it to school. Sometimes a copycat could be a good thing, but generally speaking, it has a negative connotation, which means it has a negative sense of it. We don't generally want to be a copycat. So that's kind of a negative idiom. The next one that we have is to draw a blank. Now, the picture that I've given you here is a confused person because it means to receive no response. This is actually kind of an interesting idiom because where it really comes from is a blank bullet in a gun. And when you shoot a blank bullet, it has no result. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do, which is kind of the same idea of a blank idea. So when we're trying to come up with the thought and we can't come up with the thought, then we draw a blank. So it's the same thing. We're trying to get our thoughts to be working and they're not working, and so we draw a blank. And our example sentence for that is, sometimes I draw a blank when I have to remember names. So this can be kind of hard to remember, however you want to try to remember it. But drawing a blank just means the information isn't there. Like when you walk into a room and you don't remember what you were looking for, you drew a blank. And so that's what that idiom means. The next idiom that we have, and the last idiom for our idiom list, is to be an eager beaver. The eager beaver is one of my favorite idioms, and what it means is to be enthusiastic about something. It's a very positive idiom. So beavers are really industrious little guys. They're always building their dams and protecting their young. And so our example for this is, the student was such an eager beaver about the idiom class. He always came to class on time. He always did his homework. He was just such an eager beaver. So this is a very positive idiom. You want to be an eager beaver if you can. And that really finishes our idioms for our syllabus. Then we are done. All good things must come to an end, which is another fun idiom that means we're finished. So we have to call it a day, which is another idiom that means we're finished. And that's it for us today. I'll see you next time when we cover our idioms for the next chapter. I hope everybody has a good day and studies your idioms for class. Have a great day, everybody.